Nobody ever talks about the shit they failed. Everybody always talks about the shit they didn't do. If you're wrong and you take on this risk and the business didn't come in and you've got to let go of these people and start over, it's not going to feel good, and it'll take you a couple of years to dust yourself off, but you'll be 45 and you'll move on with your life.
Right.
Oh, it's going to sit there forever and you're going to regret forever.
2 years ago, started my own business with a partner of mine. And as I tested and tried a bunch of things along the way, I found out what I was doing was actually what I really loved, so started a sales and marketing business around architectural building products out here in Seattle. So there's a lot of action going there. I have a good, strong network, and we were preparing for the last 4 or 5 months to expand and go from 3 employees to 4 employees. So we are super, super new. And I was about to make the move this month. And then all of a sudden, is this, the biggest lesson I've learned over this entrepreneurial journey is that it's sure, there's a lot of things that I know how to do and I can analyze and I can get there, but there's this grit, right? That this entrepreneur thing takes, right? There's this grit of I
call it, the stomach for it.
Yes.
It's a different breed than people don't realize. It's this anxiety. You have to have the ability to have a stomach to keep. It's anxiety 24/7, 365. You're a firefighter. You're a fire. You're always on. There is no vacation. I mean, do you understand how chill I would be right now if I was in college or in high school? I'd be pumped. This would be the greatest. I keep thinking fuck, why didn't Corona happen in 1993? If I had 3 months off of school, I would have lost my fucking mind and happiness. I'm a grown up and I have 1,000 employees to take care of and all this shit on my shoulders.
No, that's exactly right. I mean, and then talking with these prospective employees and trying to basically craft and listen to their awareness and then understand hey, this is ours and this is where we're going to be. And then this thing hits. And along the way, I'm just thinking the entire time, while everybody's zigging, I zag, right? It's there's an opportunity here that I don't know if I'm super clear on yet, but I do still feel that gut feeling of to expand while there is a perception of contraction in place. You know what I mean?
This is the amount of fortunes, and when I say fortune, I mean happiness and finance, fortunes that are going to be made during this next 12-week period is enormous.
Right.
Point. It's using the Seahawks metaphor instead of a Mariners. Most people are going to go into prevent defense and give up a touchdown. I'm going to blitz and create a sack and pick up scoop the football up and score and win. I think that's right. Now, the reason I'm going to blitz is because I've done all the right things for the last decade to have a secondary that's going to protect me, AKA, for anybody who doesn't follow the football analogy, I can go on the offense right now because I've left a lot of money on the table over the last decade because I've saved and I've created. On the flip side, to your point, let's say you haven't saved. If you're just starting, yes, there's enormous opportunity. You need to be able to get through 3 or 4 months here clearly. And I think, looking at China, looking at South Korea, looking at other places, this doesn't look like it's the Black Plague. It doesn't look like we're going to lose 100 million people to death.
No.
The government is clearly scared, and so we'll see huge stimulus packages. And so, look, there's a lot of reasons to believe if you can get through 100 days of pain, there might be a lot of prosperity on the other side. I think it's practical to go on the offense on these 100 days.
And it's really timely, this conversation. I've tried, I don't know, over the last 4 years to connect with you in various ways. And for it to come at today, right? It's incredibly timely. And there's always this serendipitous moment for it. And it's just, I see that opportunity and I can see these different cracks in this place happen. And for me in my industry, we were in that construction industry that was left behind in 2008 and 10. Everybody departed. So there's a strong lack of resources and trained people to actually do it. And I've been basically creating this network, and then now I want to suck them into like just work for us and go after it. And they're all sitting at the precipice of saying yes and going after it. Now it's like that grit moment, that chest moment of like, I've done my analyzation, I've done this thing. It's time to take the leap. And Gary, that's something that you don't read in the business book, right? You don't look on Instagram on, it's so.
It's not going to come in the form of a quote from me. I think how I see this, brother, is life is about alternatives.
Okay.
I think the reason you have to do it is if you don't, in 39 years, you're going to be sitting on the porch being like, fuck, why didn't I do it?
I'm 39 years old, dude, yesterday.
Right. So happy birthday. So it's funny. That was super weird. And so like, what I don't want is 78-year-old you sitting there with regret. I'd rather you jump, fail, and reset. And not, I think people don't understand how much regret is the greatest thing of talking to 80, 90-year-olds, which I find myself doing a lot of times in airports and random shit, is, and I'm an old soul and I've come to know that.
Me too.
They spend all their time on, all they talk about is the things they didn't do.
Yeah.
Look at an 89-year-old in a nursing home right now, and she's going to tell you like she wished she married Bobby Thompson instead of Rick. And she wishes that she started the business, but that was not the era when women did it. And he's going to say, Don's going to say that he wishes he did move to St. Louis to the big town. Like, nobody ever talks about the shit they failed. Everybody always talks about the shit they didn't do.
Yeah.
Moment right now, you're not going to, if you're wrong and you take on this risk and the business didn't come in and you've got to let go of these people and start over, it's not going to feel good, and it'll take you a couple of years to dust yourself off, but you'll be 45 and you'll move on with your life.
Right.
Oh, it's going to sit there forever and you're going to regret forever.
Yeah. No, it makes me emotional actually thinking about it. That what changed my perception with you was I still think about it as episode, or Gary Daily, his weekly Daily V episode 28. I wish. And and you mentioned again today, and I remember walking through a assisted living center that we had designed and built and done from there. And I remember seeing this 85-year-old guy come and just sit in the lobby. And I remember I had to sit in the lobby to wait for this other meeting to happen. And I just watched him. This is right after I watched that episode. And come him down the elevator, he walks 15 feet, sits down in the lobby, and that was his walk for the day. And I remember looking at that, thinking about the perspective of really I wish, and going, I do not want to. When I'm that guy, there's nothing. Yeah,
you left it on the field. And much like, for everybody who's listening right now, who's 28 to 50, much like all the things you thought about as a kid, and now here we are, you're going to be that 70-year-old. You're going to be that 80-year-old. You're going to be that 90-year-old.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. And so, bro, I think you're in the right mindset. And I think that this moment is going to lead to a lot of opportunity. And I think the answer. It's very clear to me you know the answer. Just don't, you've clearly analyzed how much risk reward, end up homeless and things of that nature. But put yourself in a practical offensive position and go.
Practical offensive position. All right, man, I got this. And one other question, if there's any other daily tactics that you do to just basically take that mindset and switch it, because there's so many different things of wins that change during the day.
All my time on worst case scenario.
Okay.
That's all I do. People, and it's funny, it's counterintuitive. People think I'm so offensive. All I do every second is think, if this all goes wrong, am I okay with going back into a studio apartment in Queens? And the answer is yes.
Yeah, I just wrote my wife a letter the other day. I just said, there is no regrets that I've got over the 15 years that we've been married. And if I was to do it over again, the way we did it over again, I would do whatever it takes every single day, all the time.
I'm proud of you, brother. Listen to me. What I would do is think about when you hire these 4 people or one person,
right?
Go to 6 and you go for it. And if the market didn't respond the way you wanted, you'd feel bad that you let those people down and they have to go back to other jobs. You have your whole life to make it. One of the things I spend a lot of time on is whoever's collateral damage for my mistakes, I always think I have my whole life to make it up to them. You know, for example, I never raised capital before. So when I raised some money for empathy from all my friends, my business friends, I've never said this publicly, but in my mind, I said, if this fails, I'm just going to pay them all back, you know, over time.
Right.
You know, because I wouldn't be able to pay it all at once. And so, like, you know,
right.
It's just, you know, you're in control.
Yes, that's the thing here, is that I've never been in that position in my life. And I've always told myself when I'm there, I know I'm going to enter with no regrets. And now that I'm here, that chest, that grit, that love that I've got, it's this really dichotomy of this motivating factor, but then you feel this like strain of holding back. It's a very passionate feeling that that it's just so different to define. You know what I mean?
It's being 100% accountable. It's not having the ability to blame anybody else. This is no longer your boss's or the company's fault. There's no, I get it, brother. I live it every day, and I've lived it pretty much my whole life. And so I understand. Here's the good news. Put it into worst case scenario. When I think the sentence, when this fails, I'll be happy because I did it, and then I'll do this and hope. And if you don't risk the house, you know, I mean, what? You buy a $28 Mariners t-shirt? Who gives a fuck? Move on. I wish you well, Brad.
Thank you, Gary.